and dizzy with excitement as she finished writing, and her brain was in a whirl. She felt as if she would scream in a minute if this strain kept up. The papers were to be signed that morning. Even now the deed might be done, and it would be too late perhaps to stop it. And yet she must make no sign, must not have the men know that she was there and that they had been heard. She must sit here breathless until they were gone, so they would not know she had overheard them, or they might manage to prevent her getting word to Graham. How long would they stay? Would they talk on and reveal more? The other man had only grunted something unintelligible in reply, and then, before more could be said, an office boy opened the outer door and told them that Mr. Barnard had just phoned that he would not be back before 2:00. The men swore and went out grumbling. Suddenly Shirley knew her time had come to do something. Stepping quickly to the door, she scanned the room carefully to make sure they were gone. Then, closing her own door, she took up the telephone on her desk and called up the Graham number. She did not know just what she meant to say, nor what she would do if Sidney Graham were not in the office, and it was hardly probable he would be there yet if he had only arrived home the day before. He would be likely to take a day off before getting back to work. Her throbbing heart beat out those questions to her brain while she waited for the number. Would she dare ask for Mr. Walter Graham? And if she did, what would she say to him? How explain? He did not know her and probably never heard of her. He might think her crazy. Then there was always the possibility that there was some mistake, and yet it seemed a coincidence that two men of the same name should both be going West at that time. It must be these Grahams that the plot was against, but how explain enough over the phone to do any good? Of course she must give them a copy of what she had taken down in shorthand, but first she must stop the signing of those papers, whatever they were, at all costs. Then all at once, into the midst of her whirling confusion of thoughts, came a voice at the other end of the phone. "Hello?" And her frantic senses realized that it was a familiar one. "Oh, is this is Mr. Sidney Graham, isn't it? This is Shirley Hollister." There was a catch in her voice that sounded almost like a sob as she drew in her breath with relief to know that he was there, and his answer came in swift alarm. "Yes. Is there anything the matter, Miss Shirley? You are not ill, are you?" There was a sharp note of anxiety in the young man's voice, and even in her excitement it made Shirley's heart leap to hear it. "No, there is nothing the matter with me," she said, trying to steady her voice, "but something has happened that I think you ought to know at once. I don't know whether I ought to tell it over the phone. I'm not sure but I may be overheard." "I will come to you immediately. Where can I find you?" Her heart leaped again at his willingness to trust her and to obey her call. "In Mr. Barnard's private office. If you ask for me they will let you come right in. There is one thing more. If there is anything important your father was to decide this morning, could you get him to wait till you return, or till you phone him?" There was a second's hesitation, and the reply was politely puzzled but courteous. "He is not in the office at present, and will not be for an hour." "Oh, I'm so glad. Then please hurry." "I will get there as soon as I can," and the phone clicked into place. Shirley sat back in her chair and pressed her hands over her eyes to concentrate all her powers. Then she turned to her typewriter and began to copy off the shorthand, her fingers flying over the keys with more than their usual swiftness. As she wrote she prayed that nothing might have been signed and that her warning might not come too late. Prayed, too, that Mr. Barnard might not return until Mr. Graham had been and gone, and that Mr. Graham might not think her an utter fool in case this proved to have nothing whatever to do with his affairs. Chapter 17